George Russell's future at Mercedes is dangling by a thread, and the whispers in the paddock are getting louder with every passing race weekend. In the high-stakes theatre of Formula One, uncertainty is blood in the water, and two rival teams are circling like sharks, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Meanwhile, Mercedes continue to drag their heels over a new deal, letting the clock tick down in a game they might not win. Russell, the man many believed would lead the Silver Arrows into the post-Verstappen era, remains without a signed contract for 2026. Toto Wolff might have stood in front of the cameras in Budapest and assured the world that Russell will be alongside Kimi Antonelli next season, but there's one glaring problem. Words are cheap, contracts are not. And in Formula One, nothing is certain until the ink is dry. Behind the calm facade, the hesitation is obvious. Mercedes want Russell, just not badly enough to bow to his terms. That sliver of doubt has cracked the door wide open, and now opportunistic teams are ready to slip through. Wolff's performance at the Hungarian Grand Prix was classic Toto, a masterclass in controlled messaging. He presented Mercedes as unshaken, unfazed, and in command. But the truth, his so-called Plan B for life after Verstappen was never a secret, and now it's in danger before it even begins. "He's our guy," was the message Mercedes wanted, ringing in everyone's ears. Kimi and George for 2026 made the headlines, but buried in the fine print of reality is a far more intriguing truth. George Russell is still waiting for a deal worth picking up the pen for. The sticking point, contract length. Russell wants a future locked in, something that cements him in silver well beyond 2026. Mercedes, however, only want to keep him until the end of that season, as if they are already eyeing the 2027 market, a market that could reopen if Verstappen has second thoughts, or if Antonelli turns into the next generational prodigy overnight. For now, Toto Wolff insists Mercedes will not be drawn into uncertainty, but Russell is playing his own game. And why rush? After a year of being parked in limbo, he has become one of the hottest free agents for 2026. In Hungary, he wore the calm of a man holding a winning hand, telling reporters he'll sit down when the time is right and won't be pressured into a decision within 2 weeks. Translated, it reads loud and clear: "I'll sign when you stop lowballing me." This is not the wide-eyed Russell of 2022, grateful just to escape Williams for a competitive seat. This is a sharper, more seasoned racer who understands leverage. And right now, the scales may be tipping in his favour. For once, Mercedes might need George Russell more than George Russell needs Mercedes, a rare and dangerous position for any driver not named Max Verstappen. Sky Sports claims at least 2 teams have already tested the waters over George Russell's availability, and the names involved could shake up the 2026 grid. Aston Martin, with a driver lineup looking shakier by the week, have been quietly circling like a predator sizing up wounded prey. Inside the paddock, murmurs about Lance Stroll's underwhelming performances are growing louder, while Fernando Alonso's long-term future remains uncertain despite his flashes of brilliance. The team's ambitious 2026 project, backed by Honda's Full Works partnership, demands a driver pairing capable of delivering consistent results and challenging for podiums, something their current lineup has struggled to achieve on a regular basis. But the real wildcard is Cadillac, the bold American newcomers preparing to storm into Formula One with all the swagger of a brand that believes it belongs at the very top. Backed by General Motors' vast resources, Cadillac have made it clear they are not entering the sport to make up the numbers. They want to be a force. Yet, for all their grand talk of ambition, American pride, and building a competitive team from the ground up, there is one glaring omission from their glossy pitch. They have not announced a single driver. That silence cannot last. Without a marquee name to front the project, all the rhetoric risks fading into background noise. A debut season demands a statement signing, someone who instantly signals that Cadillac are serious about competing with the established giants. Few names would check more boxes than George Russell. He is not just a proven race winner, he is a polished professional with the camera presence to charm sponsors, the technical feedback to drive development, and the competitive grit to fight at the sharp end of the grid. For Russell, the lure is obvious. The chance to be the face of a brand new American operation, to have a team built around him from day one, and to shape its identity in a way that would be impossible at a legacy team like Mercedes. In a sport where legacy often overshadows opportunity, Cadillac could offer him the rarest of gifts. Both, there are even faint echoes from the past. Christian Horner, long before his dramatic exit from Red Bull, reportedly had Russell earmarked as a contingency in case Verstappen ever walked. That plan, much like Horner's tenure, has now been shredded and filed under "never happened," but it shows how highly Russell's stock has been rated behind closed doors. And And now, with rivals openly circling, Russell's bargaining power with Mercedes has never looked stronger. The message is simple. If the Silver Arrows hesitate, someone else will happily put pen to paper. From the outside, it has all the makings of a high-stakes game of chicken between George Russell and Toto Wolff. Mercedes want to project authority, to look decisive, which is why they keep making confident public declarations. Russell, meanwhile, is determined not to be treated as a stopgap, the convenient placeholder who gets swept aside the moment a bigger name appears on the horizon. Wolff's push for a short-term deal feels telling. It is the move of a man who does not want to lock himself into a long-term commitment while the future of the driver market remains unpredictable. Yet that very caution is exactly what has Russell hitting the brakes. No driver with his credentials wants to be the one sacrificed when a shinier option comes along. And so, the summer break arrives with no ink on paper, no celebratory handshake, and no official announcement. Only a promise spoken into microphones, without the contract to back it up. This standoff is about far more than the number of years on a contract. It cuts to the heart of whether George Russell sees Mercedes as his long-term home, or simply the team that rescued him from the wilderness. With Kimi Antonelli's arrival on the horizon and Max Verstappen still a potential wildcard for 2027, Russell has to ask himself, is Mercedes truly invested in him, or are they just keeping his seat warm until something shinier comes along? If Aston Martin or Cadillac come knocking with not just a bigger paycheck, but a longer commitment and the promise of building a team around his strengths, the choice becomes anything but straightforward. At 27, Russell is in the prime of his career, the age when a driver's speed, experience, and racecraft are perfectly balanced. He cannot afford to gamble on a team that sees him as expendable. The days of drivers signing on faith alone because of the badge on the nose cone are long gone. Perhaps once the roar of engines is replaced by the hush of waves lapping against some Greek shoreline, Mercedes and Russell will finally find common ground. But the quiet of the summer break can also bring clarity, and Russell may start wondering if staying loyal to a team unwilling to match his commitment is really the wisest move, because there are other teams with deep pockets, empty seats, and an appetite for a proven race winner. And Mercedes, for all their storied history, haven't looked like a championship-winning force since 2021. Treat Russell like a placeholder for too long, and they could find themselves without a driver altogether. So, should George Russell hold Mercedes' feet to the fire, or play it safe and re-sign? And is Toto Wolff right to keep his options open, or should he finally give Russell the long-term backing he's asking for? Let us know in the comments. Until next time, goodbye for now.